Across the Illawarra, South Coast and Southern Highlands, this is Win News.
Tonight, authorities winning the battle against a shipboard fire at Port Kembla. A teenage girl charged over a bigger school assault. And Helensburgh rallying around a boy with a rare disease. Good evening, I'm Geoff Phillips. Also coming up tonight, claims cheap children's shoes bought online could cause lifelong damage. It's taken 4 days, but at last Fire and Rescue believe they have the upper hand over the fire on board the Iron Chieftain berthed at Port Kembla. The ship has been deemed seaworthy despite hundreds of tonnes of water being sprayed onto the fire, and remarkably, the environment appears to have escaped unscathed as well.
No smoke, but still smouldering. Tugboats continuing to cool the Iron Chieftain's fuel tanks from the outside. And while the majority of the fire has been extinguished, the Fire and Rescue Assistant Commissioner isn't taking any risks.
Workers at Wollongong and Shellharbour outlets of Toys R Us are among 700 employees of the chain across Australia who will be soon out of a job. The company went into voluntary administration a month ago and administrators failed to secure a buyer for the chain.
It's going to be pretty sad. This is where we buy all the kids' toys from. As you can see, he's got his balance bike and everything, and yeah, they're really good here.
Lay-buyers will be available until July 5, providing all outstanding amounts are paid. Employees are expected to receive full entitlements through liquidation sales. A 37-year-old man is in a stable condition in Liverpool Hospital after an industrial accident at Kangaroo Valley this morning. A rescue helicopter was called in to airlift the man, who suffered a chest injury and a ruptured lung when a compressed air line burst at the Kangaroo Valley power station. The man was treated by colleagues before ambulance paramedics arrived. Residents today were given the opportunity to hear the latest from Defence on its investigation into PFAS contamination at HMAS Albatross. The investigation and management team turned its attention to mitigation and how to prevent the chemical getting into nearby waterways.
Another community information session, another update on an issue with no end in sight.
We accept responsibility for placing these chemicals in the environment, and what we need to do is to respond in a sensible and proportionate way.
Jordan Matthews, Win News.
The state government has established Australia's first review into smartphone use in schools, to be led by leading child psychologist Dr Michael Carr-Gregg. It comes following concerns about cyberbullying and distraction.
These days you would be hard-pressed to find a teenager who doesn't have a smartphone, but should they have them at school?
I just feel that young people spend far too much time on phones. Rising
security costs have put a cloud over this year's Spring into Corrimal Festival, with organisers saying unless they can raise more sponsorship, the event will be called off. Spring into Corrimal is one of the largest Illawarra street festivals, regularly attracting more than 20,000 people. However, the Chamber of Commerce says new security measures, including street and footpath barriers, are proving costly for the not-for-profit event. The Chamber says Spring into Corrimal, scheduled for early September, may have to be cancelled.
For information on how to donate, visit the Win News Illawarra Facebook page. Katie Gallagher, Win News.
When Win News continues, a popular South Coast op shop reopens, and a warning that ill-fitting children's shoes could cause lifelong problems. Shoalhaven City Councillor Annette Aldrich will contest the next state election for Labor in the seat of South Coast. Councillor Aldrich was elected to council on the Country Labor ticket in 2016. She's also been a health advocate as a member of the Nurses and Midwives Union, with health sure to be a focus of her campaign. Councillor Aldrich will take on incumbent Liberal MP and Speaker of the House Shelley Hancock. Miss Hancock has held the seat of South Coast since 2003 and won the last state election by a margin of 20%. The Salvation Army has reopened its South Nowra store after much-needed refurbishments. The popular op shop was bustling with activity this morning after a temporary closure while the refurbishment was carried out.
It was getting sad and tired, and it was time for a rejuvenation of the store. And there's a younger customer who wants to come into op shops and shop on op shops, and we need to have that store much more attractive for them.
Properly fitted shoes for preschoolers are becoming a thing of the past, according to podiatrists. While many parents buy cheap shoes for fast-growing feet, research shows ill-fitting shoes can affect foot development and impede growth.
As soon as they learn to walk, they're off running. It can be tempting to buy a cheap pair of shoes when your child is only going to grow out of them in a few months. But experts say it's worth spending the extra money for your child's health.
So it's been found that approximately 70% of adults have foot problems related to ill-fitting footwear.
Amy has all the sport, and the Illawarra Hawks part ways with Reece Martin.
They do, Geoff. The 250 gamer isn't in the club's plans moving forward, and juniors from the University Rugby Club to play at Saturday's Wallabies Island Test. In sport, veteran point guard Reece Martin has officially played his last game for the Illawarra Hawks. The club confirming the 32-year-old isn't in coach Rob Beveridge's plans for the 2018-19 NBL season. Martin started his career at Brisbane before going on to play 251 games over 10 seasons in Wollongong. He'll now shift his focus to playing on the FIBA 3-on-3 circuit. Players from the University and Woonona Junior Rugby Union clubs will go head-to-head in a curtain raiser to Saturday night's Wallabies Island Test match in Sydney. Both teams preparing hard for their moment on the big stage.
You can't tame the excitement as these young Mallee Bulls get ready to stampede the Sydney Football Stadium.
To football, an Albion Park product, Caitlin Ford's getting close to a return to the field after more than 4 months after fracturing her foot in Sydney FC's semi-final win over Newcastle. The 23-year-old Matilda's defender has departed for Portland to take up her contract with the Thorns in the US National Women's Soccer League. The club currently sitting one spot outside the four halfway through the season. On this week's Juniors Corner, we head to the fledgling South Coast United Club, which has held a final training session at Ian McLennan Park before the ageing facility is transformed into a state-of-the-art football ground.
A bittersweet moment for South Coast United juniors. A last hurrah at their beloved home ground before being temporarily forced to another venue.
And our fingers are crossed that Dapto's Matthew Yeoman gets the nod for tonight's game in the World Cup as the Socceroos clash with Denmark, Geoff.
We certainly hope so.
We do.
OK, Tanya is right here with the weather, and it was an icy start for parts of the region.
It sure was, Geoff, but the mercury did recover into the teens throughout the day. I'll have the details next. Hello again. Temperatures were sitting close to average in most places for the shortest day of the year. There is plenty to like about this stormy Port Kembla snap from Michael. I'd love to see your weather shots from around the region. Email them through to weather@wintv.com.au. Let's have a look at the details from today. Goulburn slipped to a very icy -2 overnight. Did feel more like -5 degrees though. 16 the top for Ulladulla, and Albion Park had already reached its top of 18 degrees by 11:30 this morning. On the south coast, the mercury slipped to 4 at Maruya. Just after sunrise, humidity sitting on 91%, eventually seeing a top of 17, 16 the high for Narooma, and a freezing start at Bega. On the satellite, a broad ridge of high pressure remains over New South Wales. On the synoptic, the high will dominate in the days ahead, while a front slips to the south tomorrow and Saturday. Now, there'll be sunshine about on the waters tomorrow, with winds gusting at around 10 knots or below. Taking a look at the forecast for the Illawarra and Southern Highlands. Fog and frost in the morning, then a sunny afternoon will follow. Picton slipping to a low of 2, expecting a high of 19. -1 to start the day at Goulburn. It's heading for 13 degrees, and 17 the forecast high for Ulladulla. Conditions will be fairly similar on the south coast tomorrow. Bateman's Bay dropping to a low of 1, expecting a high of 17 throughout the day. Does look like quite a popular temperature down the coast tomorrow, except for Eden, which is heading for a high of 15 degrees. For Wollongong, sunshine ahead. Sunrise will be at 7:02 a.m. and setting at 4:53 in the afternoon. 18 degrees is the forecast high, starting the day with 10, and in the days ahead, Saturday will be sunny with some patchy morning frost. The addition of areas of fog further south as well. Sunday, a few clouds about with fog and frost about higher ground, the slight chance of a shower near the border, and Monday we'll see more fog and frost to start, a possible shower near the border, but overall a mostly sunny day. Wollongong expecting a top of 16 degrees by Monday, 11 the high for Barrel, and 16 degrees for Bateman's Bay and Bega, and at least those days start to grow from now, Geoff.
Right through until December. Tanya, thank you. And that is Win News for Thursday the 21st of June. I'm Geoff Phillips. Thanks for your company. Until 6 tomorrow. Good night.
This has been a Win News presentation. Win News, Regional Australia's #1 news source.